Secrets, database passwords, API keys, cloud tokens are all everywhere in modern build pipelines. If any of those things leak, everything from staging to production environments can get exposed. And we've seen that happen in several recent cyber attacks. Now on this channel, we've already worked through various Kubernetes security scenarios and container image security, but today we're adding the next layer, which is protecting GitLab CI/CD pipelines or any CI/CD pipeline so that credentials never live in your codebase or your logs. In this video, as a proof of concept, I'll be deploying a self-hosted Passbolt instance in the cloud and showing you how to create a dedicated service account for GitLab, pull CI/CD secrets only at runtime so that nothing sits in your repo, keep those secrets encrypted end-to-end through the build, and reuse the same pattern for your own projects or early career roles, whether you're in a cybersecurity engineering role or just working with your own personal repos. This video is made possible and sponsored by Passbolt, which is the open source credential platform built for modern teams. Their platform is exactly what makes this secure workflow I'm going to show you possible for this video. And if you're new here, I'm Day, and I'm a cybersecurity engineer at Amazon with about 5 years in the industry. For deeper dives into cybersecurity topics that are technical and career related, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out the CYBERWOX Unplugged newsletter and join the CYBERWOX Academy Discord, which is our almost 7,000 member community where we share projects like this, career tips, and learn together. All the links will be in the description below. Now, let's get into the setup. Alright, let's get started with installing Passbolt on AWS. There's a nice tutorial here we can use where we can essentially use the AMI that Passbolt provides, which is just a ready-to-use Passbolt image for free in AWS. So we'll go in here. Actually, we can just go to the AWS Marketplace listing. And this is the Passbolt Community Edition AMI. View purchase options. And we have a bunch of options here. We don't want to purchase order. We're just going to subscribe. And this is going to process a request. And once this is ready, we can then deploy instance for our Passbolt environment. All right, looks like we've already accepted this offer. I think it's all set for the subscription. Let's go ahead and launch our software for this. All right, okay, so let's set up a EC2 instance. Do a launch from EC2 console. Let's see. Yeah, most recent version, latest and stable. Of course, we're going to use a US East 1. We're just going to use the EC2 console so we have a lot more control over the configuration. And let's go ahead and launch from EC2. All right, here we go. And we'll just name this Passbolt CYBERWOX for CYBERWOX Passbolt. We're going to leave the AMI from the catalog as the same. Instant type, we're going to just do T2 medium. That should be good enough. Key pair. For this key pair, we're going to create a new key pair. We'll do RSA. And then we'll just do CYBERWOX, Passbolt, key. And for this, we'll do .pem create key pair. We'll download that for us. We'll have that in our downloads folder for now. All right, for security group, we're going to create a security group that is going to allow SSH, HTTPS, and HTTP from anywhere. That's good for us. We can adjust security group stuff post deployment. For storage, let's do 8 gigabytes. We can just make this 20 gigabytes. Let's see. Let's actually do 30 gigabytes since we're free tier eligible. Let's see. Are there any advanced details we care about? None that I can think of. Let's see. Nothing here. All right. That being said, let's go ahead and launch this instance. Let's launch this instance. Oh, looks like I did not select subnet for this. So this is saying no subnets found. You create a new subnet. For this subnet, we're going to do the main VPC. We'll leave the CIDR as it is. Let's see for subnet settings. For subnet settings, let's do subnet name, and we'll just call this a public subnet. And availability zone, we're going to do US East 1A. That's fine for us. We'll keep the CIDR block as it is. And for the subnet CIDR block, we can just do 172 31.1.0/24. We don't really need much there. So let's create the subnet. All right, we've got this public subnet. We can go back here and we can just reload this here. All right, perfect. We've got that subnet, auto assign public IP. Let's do enable for auto assign public IP. Let's see if there's anything else we're missing. And we can launch our instance. All right, there we go. Launching our instance for Passbolt. All right, successfully launched. Let's go back to instances. All right, looks like it's running. It's initializing. Once this is all ready to go, we'll log into it and start configuring Passbolt. In the meantime, let's actually set up a free trial for GitLab. We could self-host our GitLab, but I think just for ease of use for this lab, let's do the 30-day free trial. I'm going to go ahead and put in all of my details here and on to the next phase. All right. All right, looks like it's asking for a verification code. I'm going to put that in. It's verified. And all right, let's see. Select a role. We're going to just do security analyst. Sign up for GitLab. And we'll just say, I want to store my code. Who will be using this GitLab trial? My company or team, or just me, whichever. I don't think it matters. Just me. Continue. Company name, I'll just say CYBERWOX. Country or region. United States of America. State of province will be Texas. And we'll put my phone number. Continue. All right. Group name will be CYBERWOX. I'll just make it CYBERWOX Labs. Project name is CYBERWOX Project. Template, let's do Hugo pages. Hugo pages seem nice. I've seen some nice Hugo pages. So let's create a project. All right, we've got our GitLab all running and good to go. And we have our 30-day free trial all set. Let's go back to our EC2 instance and see if it's fully deployed. Let's go back here, reload this. It's still initializing, so we have some time to wait for that to fully deploy. All right, so it looks like our instance is up and running. If we open up to this public IP address, we should be able to access this instance, but because right now we don't actually have a TLS SSL certificate installed, we can actually access this from same IP address. Let's reload this, same IP address, but with HTTP. And there we go. Now, Passbolt recommends that we actually set up a TLS certificate, right? And there's a automatic AWS HTTPS configuration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a subdomain for my Passbolt server so that I can actually access this using my Passbolt domain, and also so that it has a specific certificate attached to it. So what I'm going to do is I actually have most of my domains hosted in Route 53. So I'm going to create a subdomain for my personal Passbolt instance. And for cyberwox.com, I'm actually going to create a new one here, create a new record. And I'm just going to say Passbolt for cyberwox.com. And I'm going to grab that IP address for this over here for my Passbolt instance. I'm going to add that in here and make sure it's just the IP address. And this is fine as a simple A record. I'm going to go ahead and create this record, and this should be ready to go in a few seconds. So if I go to passbolt.cyberwox.com, there we go. I should be able to access my Passbolt instance here. So with that being propagated, I have my Passbolt instance. Now I actually want to access this instance. So I'm going to be able to access it using the key that I have access to. So let's go to SSH client, and I have this right here. So I just need to make sure that I can go to my terminal. And here, I'm going to just use this command. Actually, I can just move that file from my downloads here. And if I do an ls, it should be over here. So I can now run that SSH command, and I'll say yes. And looks like permission denied. And make sure that private key is attached to this instance. So, oh, actually, I need to let me make sure that I have the right permissions for this private key. So, chmod 400 CWX. There we go. And let's try this command again. Just to get access denied. All right, let's see. Maybe it's because this is, I believe, admin. Let's try change this from root to admin. Okay, there we go. So it's admin. That's the username. That was the warning here. All right, so let's go back and follow these instructions that we have here for HTTPS configuration. So let's open this file here. And we'll just say nano, copy this again, and make sure we're in the right place. Nano, there we go. I need to make sure I have some space here. There we go. All right, so we just need to change the server name here to this CyberWOX, actually passbolt.cyberwox.com. There we go. And I'll just do a Control X. Yes. It seems like error writing this, so I should have probably open this as sudo. So let's go ahead and do that. Save that. Awesome. And then we can just use this command to reconfigure our Passbolt. We'll copy this, go back in here. Okay, and looks like it had some formatting issues, so we just have to clean it up. And run this again. All right, so the script will guide you to create an empty database and grant permissions to a user for Passbolt. Create a Passbolt database on the local MySQL. It says would most likely want to say no, so I'm going to say no. Passbolt requires Nginx or Apache to serve HTTP requests. This script can automatically configure Nginx for you. I think we want to say yes to that. All right. We'll go ahead and choose auto so we can generate SSL keys for us. And then our Passbolt domain name is CyberWOX. I keep forgetting it's passbolt.cyberwox.com. And a let's encrypt email here. You want to put a good email for you. So I'm going to blur this out. All right, looks like that failed for us. Let's see what happened here. Cat var. Okay, I guess what we need to do is with sudo. I should probably be operating as the root user now, but okay, so seems like this is the error that happened here. So everything was working fine up until this point. Let me get this error for no such authorization. All right, looks like it worked. Second time's the charm. I feel like it probably didn't work the first time, probably because maybe it was just very, very new. It looks like it works now. So we're all set according to this tutorial here. Last thing we need to do here is to reload Nginx. Let's copy that. Go back to our terminal and paste that. Reload that. And here's a final warning. Ensure that the full base URL value in, let's see cat. Let's do sudo cat. Okay, let's do this. All right, there we go. Let's go into Passbolt. And let's see passbolt.php. I can type. And it looks like I think this value is probably Passbolt's default PHP now, so they might need to update their documentation here. So let's go ahead and look at this. And we're looking for full base URL, wherever that is. Let's actually just do a grep here. Grep full base. All right, there we go. Yes, so ensure this starts with HTTPS. All right, and it looks like it does. Okay, cool. Let's go back and see. Yeah, we can still access our Passbolt, cyberwox.com. And now when we just reloaded it, we see that we actually have a certificate for it. And it's HTTPS. All right, so this is awesome. We have our Passbolt set up such that we have HTTPS configured for it, which is all well and good. We can close this out now. So let's go ahead and configure our Passbolt. All right, let's go ahead and configure Passbolt on our EC2 server. So we're going to go ahead and click on Get Started. And it looks like we have pretty much everything we need for our environment. So it looks like our environment is configured correctly, our GPG is configured correctly, and our SSL access is enabled. Let's go ahead and start our configuration. And we're just going to leave this database configuration as it is. And I'm going to close this out. For our server name, we're just going to name this CWX Passbolt. Server email, I'll just use my personal email. And let's go ahead and click next. All right, so we have our full base URL, which we already configured. Next, we are going to leave this as forced in SSL because we already have our certificate registered. So click next. Sender name, I'm just going to say CWX Passbolt again. Sender email, I'll use my personal email here. We can actually use smtp.gmail.com. Passbolt actually has some guidance around that. So if you're configuring email authentication with Google, Passbolt allows you to use smtp.gmail.com. So we'll go ahead and continue with this. Use TLS, yes. Port is fine. Authentication method, username and password. All right, so once we have these details in, we actually do have to create an app password that will allow Passbolt to actually be able to authenticate using SMTP with our specific email address. And what I've done here is it's basically go to myaccount.google.com/app passwords. And then that way you can essentially use that setting to create an app password. So I'm going to go ahead and do this right now. And I'm going to see what they did here. So I'm just going to say Passbolt here and I'll create. And it should give you an app password, which I'm going to blur out here. So we can copy this app password and that's been created. We can go back into Passbolt and just for that email, we can then use that app password. And then if we send a test email, now that email should be successfully sent. If I go to my email address for this email, I should get this test email being sent to me. So it says, congratulations, you received this email. It means that your Passbolt SMTP configuration is working fine. So we're all good on that end. You can go ahead and click next. And we'll just create an account for the admin user. I'm just going to say day, J, and my username will be this. Next. And it should go ahead and do some installation and we should be all set and ready to go. All right, so this will prompt us to install the browser extension for Passbolt. You can go ahead and download that extension and add that to Chrome. Add extension. And now that's been installed, we can click next. And we need to select a passphrase. So this passphrase is the only passphrase we're going to need to remember from now on because that's what we're going to be using to unlock our Passbolt account. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. All right, so that should download a recovery kit, and this would be a recovery kit that if we need to, access our account, we should be able to use that. So I've safely stored my recovery kit. Next, we can pick a color. I'll go for my trusty blue. Click next. All right, with all of that done, we should have our Passbolt instance all set up. All right, now that we have our Passbolt instance all set up, let's go ahead and create some secrets that we want to use for our CI/CD environment. So we're going to create a folder here, and we'll just name this folder projects. Save this. And within this project, we're going to create another folder here, and we'll just say my service. All right, save that. And we want to create, and within this, we just want to create some sort of secret, right? So we're just going to say other, choose a custom field, and we'll make this custom field. We'll actually create multiple custom fields, but we'll name this secret DB password, which is like a database password. And we'll just add this as the key, and we'll just put a random value here. The DB password would just be for ease of use, nothing crazy. We'll just say password here. Obviously, that's not good practice, but just for the proof of concept that we have here, we'll create that. And we'll just use our passphrase to make sure that we're the actual ones doing this. And all right, there we go. So we have DB password created. All right, let's go ahead and create another custom resource. We're going to just say this is a third party API key. And we'll do the same for this here. And we'll just generate a random API key here. All right, so we have this random API key. Let's go ahead and create this as well. And just validate ourselves or authenticate ourselves. And I'll just say remember for the next until I log out. Click OK. All right, so we have two resources here. We have a DB password and a third-party API key. Obviously, these are just fake, but it's just to show that we can essentially have our GitLab pipeline pull these specific secrets during runtime for a specific repo. So let's go ahead and go back to our GitLab and actually get it ready for this interaction. These resources that are previously created were created with the new encrypted metadata type. So I've gone ahead to delete them. For this demo, we're going to be acting as if we want to create clear text metadata that we can use to pull these resources using the Passbolt API. Of course, that's not recommended in production, but for the case of this sort of interaction we're building here, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and make sure that we enable legacy clear text metadata so that we can actually allow users to create legacy clear text metadata for this interaction. So we can save this and we can go back here to Passbolt and we can create another resource. All right, so we're going to stick to legacy resource type of data, and we'll use the password field. We'll create our API token again, our fake API token again. So we're just going to do one for DB password, and we'll just say the password is just password, just for the proof of concept here. Create that, proceed anyway. And then we're going to create another resource here, which is going to be our API token, our example API token. So we'll just name it third-party API key. And we'll put a fake third-party API key here. Create that. All right, so we should have these both all ready to go. All right, so in order for us to keep going with our setup here, we need to actually create an API token for Passbolt. We need to be able to interact with GitLab programmatically, and Passbolt actually has a guide for getting started with the Passbolt API. So in order for us to do that, we have to actually use these commands from our Passbolt instance. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and open up our terminal back here again. All right. Clear this out. First thing we need to do is navigate into user/share/php/passbolt directory. And if we're doing ls, we should have that bin directory. All right, so it seems like the bin directory is supposed to be hitting, but it's not. Let's navigate into it. And it looks like we can use the cake command, I believe. Let's try that. Let's try let's try this. Let's try cake, passbolt, create access token, specify username, and we'll use our user that we previously have, which is day@cyberwox.com, and expiry. Let's see what we can get away with expiry. Expiry, we'll set expiry to 45 minutes, if that works. Okay, so looks like this command is available in debug mode. Let's see what happened here. All right, so it seems like in order for us to do this, we actually have to enable debug mode. Now, it's recommended that debug mode is not used in a prod or pre-prod environment. This is not a prod environment or a pre-prod environment. So let's go ahead and turn debug mode on if it is on. So it looks like this is going to be in etc passbolt.php, and it will be somewhere around here. So let's go ahead and go back into our terminal, and let's go into etc passbolt. So let's just do nano passbolt php, and going to update this right here, right before this GPG configuration. And I would just say debug and set that as true. And save that. And let's try that command again. Let's see. Let's navigate back into that bin. Let's navigate back into that directory. So we'll go back into cd, user, share, php, passbolt, and we can run that command again. Let's try this. All right, there we go. Now that works. Okay, so we've got this access token for this user, which is valid for 45 minutes. All right, we're going to go ahead and copy this. Go back to our GitLab environment. We're going to go ahead and we already have this CYBERWOX project. Let's create a new project just for the purpose of this lab. And we'll just make this project a blank project. And we'll name this project my service. And we'll set this up for CYBERWOX Labs. And we'll create this project. All right, we've got this project all created. Now for this project, let's go to settings, CI/CD. We want to add some CI/CD variables for this project. And these are basically the credentials that this project is going to be able to use to grab secrets from Passbolt. All right, so we've got CI/CD variables here. Let's go ahead and add a variable here. We want this variable to be masked, and we also want this variable to be protected. And we'll just name this variable Passbolt URL. And this is going to be our Passbolt URL, which is going to be https://passbolt.cyberwox.com, and we'll add that as a variable. All right, we've got that variable here, and then we're going to add another variable. Same thing, we want this to be masked, and we want it to be protected. And this is going to be our Passbolt API token. And we'll place that value we copied from our terminal here and add that variable. Now, these are not application secrets. These are credentials that are going to be used to ask Passbolt for the real secrets at job time, right? So we're just using these as a means to authenticate to Passbolt via GitLab. All right, let's actually create our repo here. So let's go back to my service. And here we're going to just add a new file. And we'll just name this file main.py. It's going to be a very simple Python application. And this will allow us to have a sort of proof of concept where this application is just grabbing the database password and the third-party API keys and just grabbing, for this one, it's just grabbing like the length of that string. And for the API key prefix, it's going to give us, and this is going to grab the API key, grab the last 4 characters, and add these stars to it. All right, so let's go ahead and commit those changes and just add new file there. Ideally, you'd be doing this from your local machine, but since we're doing this as a proof of concept, we can just do it through the UI here. But this would actually be what you'd be doing like from your local machine as a developer. All right, and now we're going to create another file, which is going to be a GitLab CI YAML file. So I'm going to create this new file here, and I'm just going to name this GitLab CI YAML, or just YML. And I'll paste this in here. So basically what this is doing is it has some stages here, details for the image, and this is the main bulk of what we're looking for, right? So once we have a commit and a push to this repo, right, what this is going to do is it's going to grab that database password that we have in 1Password. If we go back in here, so let's go back. It's going to grab this database password and what's within it. It's going to also grab the third-party API key that we have as well. And it's going to leverage those variables that we've given it, right? And then we can see that we can essentially use Passbolt to store these variables or store these secrets and essentially allow GitLab to pull these at runtime during deployment. So let's commit these changes, add new file, commit those changes. All right. Now let's go to build and specifically pipelines. Okay, it does look like before we can run it in pipelines, we need to verify our account. So let's do that. Okay, so this is some authentication steps. We'll get that done and be back up and running. We're all set to start using pipelines now. Try to trigger this pipeline to actually do what we have within this CI YAML file. We'll go back to our main service and we'll make a change to our Python file and just make a very slight change to it. We'll edit this in here and I'll just say just print test as well. Commit my changes, commit that to my main branch. All right, now this should have kicked a pipeline workflow. Let's go back in and look at our pipelines. Actually look at our jobs here. Finished. Okay, we do have our GitLab CI YAML file. All right, looks like we do need to configure this. So let's go ahead and create CI/CD configuration file, which we already do have created. So let's go ahead and configure pipeline here. And in this case, we'll actually just go back here and delete this file here. And we'll just go back to our pipelines here, build pipelines, and actually we'll go to jobs and create a CI/CD configuration file, configure a pipeline. All right, let's go ahead and paste this pipeline configuration file here. Where everything looks good, we can then go ahead and commit our changes. And let's see, it's checking the pipeline status. Let's see what happens. Syntax is correct, and now the pipeline is running. Let's go to our jobs, and let's look at the jobs that are running. And let's see. All right, so it looks like our pipeline failed. Let's take a look at why it failed. All right, before we continue, I'd highly recommend making sure that you familiarize yourself with Passbolt's API documentation so you understand all the different API endpoints and possible operations you can use with Passbolt's API. So that being said, I'm going to go back and ensure that we have the right API endpoints within that pipeline configuration file. All right, so this is our updated pipeline configuration file. Just making sure that everything is looking good. And with that, we can go ahead and commit our changes to main. And let's go back into our pipelines and see if it actually works this time. All right, this is currently running. Let's take a look at it as it goes. Let's go back to our Passbolt API and let's actually see if we can access these resources. We're just going to make an API call to see if there's any resource with DB password. All right, there we go. So we can now see these resources. So if we have these resources accessible via the API, then GitLab can also have access to these resources via the API. Let's try to see beyond resources. Let's look at the secrets that we have. I have a few commands I've ran previously for troubleshooting. Let's see, secrets. Let's just see what we have in secrets here. And let's make sure we're following the Passbolt API for access and secrets. You want to get secrets /resource ID. Let's just see if we can get all of secrets here. Okay, so we can just get secrets. We have to do /resource. And let's grab our third-party API key here. Let's just grab the ID for that key here. Copy that. And then this .json. And let's run this. Oh, okay. Let's run this now. All right. So it looks like the data is still being encrypted here. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're just going to grab the data that we have here in this simple app, right? So if we know that GitLab can grab these grab these secrets from Passbolt, we can just simply use the data as a proof of concept here. So with that, we can update our pipeline, commit our changes, and let's open up this job and see what we get back. All right, so we see that this job succeeded. We have some artifacts from this job. All right, so we can see that this job succeeded, and we see that we have the encrypted database password, and we also have the encrypted third-party API key. Now, obviously, if we did want to have this encrypted, we'd have to ensure that GitLab has some authentication mechanism beyond just the API to be able to access those decrypted data. If we go into artifacts, we can look into the two files we have here. So we have artifacts.zip. If we look deeper into we'll be able to see those encrypted details that we were able to retrieve at the run of the pipeline for GitLab during this Git push that we did for this particular repo. Now that's a wrap for this Passbolt proof of concept for securing GitLab CI/CD pipelines. We were able to stand up a self-hosted Passbolt instance on AWS, create a dedicated service account, and showed how a GitLab pipeline can pull encrypted secrets on demand, keeping those credentials out of our code and out of our logs. Now, there are a few edge cases to keep in mind before taking this to production. First is decryption in production. Here in this video, GitLab only retrieved encrypted data. Real deployments would need a plan for private key storage and runtime decryption. Also, there's the case for key rotation and revocation. So rotating or revoking keys and service accounts wasn't automated here, but you'd obviously want to keep that in mind for a production environment. Also, we have a very specific single instance setup. So usually you would have a multi-environment setup, which is handling dev, staging, and prod, each of them with separate secrets that need a lot more extra design and considerations. Also, we showed a lot of Passbolt's features, but Passbolt does have some permissions and audit trail features that are powerful, that are also worth exploring for a more production environment. And here we used a single AWS instance. In production, you'd want to allow for redundancy, backups, and monitoring for scaling out and higher availability. Thanks again to Passbolt for sponsoring this video and supporting open source security. If we're ready to go deeper into DevSecOps, specifically around container security, the foundation for what we built here, I'll recommend you check out my next video on the screen on securing container images. It walks you through container security so that the infrastructure your pipeline deploys is just as locked down as the secrets that we just protected here. I'll see you over there.